So I saw proud of the line, 16th in some places, 8th in other places. I wasn't paying too much attention because I'm much more accurate with the draw knife in cutting down to that line. So right now I could go ahead and cut down to the line in this tangential plane, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down in this plane, this radial plane first, which would be the 13/16. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 13/16 then. Now, excuse me, I'm wrong there. Got to watch me. This would be the 7/8, and this would be the 13/16 plane. This is the 7/8, so I'm going to be cutting on the radial plane to take it down to the 7/8. So as you obviously see, I'm referencing off of my of that side, but there's an awful big hump right there. I just wonder if that is in the way it grew. I didn't pick anything up with my draw knife, but let me go back and check that again and see. I got a hump right there. And if it's the way the tree grew, then that's fine. But if it's not, I need to get it off of there before it's too late. Didn't pick up much that way or anything. Let's see about this way. Didn't pick up anything there either. So we'll just go ahead and go with it. Now you might be able to see from the camera how my marking gauge is tearing, which is what I want it to do, because I want to be able to see that fuzz from the top so I don't have to look over. Okay. So I'll take this down to that point, and I changed draw knives because I thought I was going to do something else, but I was a little too early on that. I'll go back to my roughing out draw knife right here. So as you can easily see, everything was referenced off this side. So if this side wasn't right, I could split down into the arm if it wasn't perfect with the wood fiber. But since it is, it's going to cut that way, and it should cut this way. So you can hear that little bit of splitting because there's wood fibers built up, but just as soon as I get down to my scribe line, it stops. And you get a nice smooth cut because I was just dead with it. So not quite to my line right there. And you can hear the splitting too. See? It knows I'm not there. And there it goes, cutting smooth. So now we've got our 7/8 dimension, and what I'll look for now would be our 13/16 dimension. So reset the marking gauge. And I want to stop plenty shy of the handhold because it starts flaring out. And if you don't, you'll get a scribe line in your finished piece. Now when using the marking gauge, you have to make sure you're in contact along the whole face of that, because if you get off just the least little bit, either that way, or that way, then you'll have a smaller piece. And once you form a track, then it's just going to run in that track. Okay. So I could use either draw knife for that. I'm going to go ahead and change it out. Use this smaller one. So I'm going to cut down to the line. With stop cuts, right like that. Because I've got a lot of material here, and it is split out with me, and it's easier if I flip it over and go this way. Now obviously I can't cut there this way because you're cutting uphill. You gotta watch that. I'm starting to go, the handhold's starting to flare right there. So I'm going to stop right there with that. So you can see that it's following, you know, I did a good job on this side because I'm dead in one Lakewood growth ring right here. And just as soon as I get to the scribe line, I'm in it. Always good to see. Got just a little bit right there. Okay, that looks good. So now I need to do the 7/16 down here on the handhold. So I'm going to measure back 15 and cut down to 7/16. So I can just do that right here. Okay, so here's where you're going to choose the top or the bottom of your handhold. And so just look at both surfaces, figure out which one's the best. And both of mine are about equal. I've already got the handhold laid out on this side. I'll just go ahead and just go with this side as the face. So I'm going to mark some X's over here, which means that that's what I'm going to remove, because you don't want to remove one side and then the opposite on this side. That's a bummer there. So now I can come 15. And 15. I'll reset the marking gauge for 7/16. You make sure that the fence is going up against the side that you're keeping, which is this side right here, the one without the X's for me. Now, you don't want to run your marking gauge all the way up against your 15-inch line because that curves down. And if you do, you'll end up with a scribe line in your finished piece. So stay back about an inch. Now I've got my X's up. This is the side that needs to be removed. It's scribed on both sides so I can get it even on both sides. And I've got the bevel down on the knife because I'm going to be coming into the cut right like that. Now, once again, if this side was not with the long wood fibers, it's going to be difficult to cut that, at least on one side. One side you'd be going downhill and the other side you'd be going uphill and they split out with you. If you're not sure if you got it perfectly straight there, then you can start down here cutting and sneak up on it and it'll tell you. But if you think you got it, then I prefer to start right there on the line, dig in and come out. Okay, looking, aha, just a little bit right here. Now you want to pay attention to this right here. You want a fairly tight curve, and then when this back gets rounded over, you end up with a really nice detail right here. So be paying attention to that side right there. I'm going to flip it around and do the other side. So looks like we're right on it, I think. And a little bit right there. And I like that curve a little bit more. That was a little bit flat for me. So you see when I do that, I'm slicing. Okay, so now we have our relief there down to 7/16, and now I'm going to form the handhold. So I guess you noticed that I didn't saw that off on the bandsaw, and that probably just stems from the old days when I didn't have a bandsaw and I had to figure out how to do things with other tools, and the draw knife seemed to be the tool for a lot of these things. I still prefer to do this with a draw knife. One, it's kind of fun, but the other is it ends up as my finished surface. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm skewing it because you've got the growth rings right there, and you'll bounce down those growth rings like that. But if you skew it, you won't. Okay, so we got that side. And now I've got to get this side right here. So I'm going to flip it over, bevel down, and I'm going to pull my elbows in real tight and use a skewing, slicing action and a lot of control off of my body. And let's see what we got. Okay, that looks good. Now one thing I also want to show you, not the last thing, but almost the last thing, is beveling off the bottom of this handhold. So I do everything right now. I shape this whole arm completely. And I bevel off the bottom of the handhold. Once again, these are all finished cuts. This is what appears on the chair. They're really nice, precise draw knife cuts. They feel good, precise. They're not precise, but they're good. And so I'll bevel this off. Now when you're beveling it, you don't want to bevel like way over around a 45 degree. You'll come way in too far. This is pretty steep. I'd guess somewhere around 70. And then I leave about a 1/16 or an 1/8 flat right up at the top. Now eventually this is going to get beveled to where it's just going to disappear back towards this cutout right here. But I'm going to stop about right there. This is the elbow bend. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I've always felt that by leaving that solid all the way across, I can get a better bend. And if I get a little bit of cracking, it's way out here on these edges, and that's going to come off anyway. So I don't know if that's true, but that's the way I do it. Oh, bevel down. Deal. Let me reposition my head and show you first. So this bevel is really steep, like I said, around, my guess would be 70. And I'm leaving a little flat right there. Okay, so I've got that. Now I'm going to turn it up on edge and bevel that. So I've got to push the draw knife again. So the reason that I'm using so much skewing and slicing action when I'm pushing the knife is that it takes a lot of power to push it where you lose control. So you want to get as much control as possible, and so it takes less power when you're skewing and slicing, and then you got your elbows in tight also. So there we go. Got that one done. Now I'll do the other one. So I guess I could have gotten a little closer to my line right there, but it doesn't matter. It's all made up. Now I'll bevel the bottom. Make sure it's the bottom that you're beveling, and even though I've got my handhold marked out right here and I know this is the top, I still always pull it back out and look to see where that relief is. Because kind of look kind of odd with it beveled on the other side. Yep, bevel down. So the danger, of course, as you saw, is slipping out of that and diving down into here, which I just did. But I didn't take out too much material, so it's okay. Okay. There we go. Steep bevel all the way around, and then we'll blend that in when we take it out of the bending form. So next is going to be turning this into a half of a octagonal, I guess you'd call it. So I'm going to take that corner off and that corner off and round that back, and it's going to make that D-shaped profile that you see in the cross section on the plans. So, okay, so what we're going to do is round off the back side. So I'm going to knock off these two corners right here, and so in other words, this is going to be the face of the chair. This is what's going to have the bead in it, and this will be the D shape from that flat face that'll come around curved and form a D. So the closer you can get to 3 equal sides here, then the bevel down, the better it's going to look. Now I say bevel down, I've said it a couple of times. This is a bevel down knife. I've got bevel up knives and I could have cut that with it, but this one will dive straight down because of the way that it's been sharpened. So this is really going to show up what you did on the other side and how well you followed all your long wood fibers. So it shouldn't be splitting out right here. So I've got 3 equal sides there. Now all you have to do is knock those corners off. So one thing that this system gives you is reference points, and so your piece is going to look a lot more consistent because you can reference off of the last cut. So now with the spoke shave, we're going to lose our reference points, but we're going to try to be as methodical as possible with it. Knock the corner off, knock the corner off, knock the corner off, knock the corner off, and we should have it close to being round. So let me get spoke shave here. So just concentrating on one of those corners and then blend it in. Switch to the next one. Okay, there we go. Got that rounded. We've kept that nice pristine edge right there. It's going to look pretty on the back of the chair. All I have to do is find the middle of this thing and get the steam box fired up, put it in the steam box.